New York City, a place of dreams, ambition, and endless possibilities. For Emily, it was a city she had always known, but never truly understood. She was a product of its fast-paced life, where success was measured in deadlines and power suits. Yet, somewhere between her 9-to-5 job and living up to her family's expectations, something vital was missing. Emily had always been told that life was about setting goals and achieving them. But somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten what it was like to simply feel alive, to feel truly connected. She had spent her days following a path that others had paved for her, one step at a time, never daring to deviate. She often wondered, when would her life be her own? When would she be allowed to make her own decisions? On this particular evening, Emily found herself standing alone on the Brooklyn Bridge, a rare break from her structured routine. The wind tousled her hair, and she watched the city below her, its lights shimmering like stars in the distance. The bridge stretched ahead of her, endless and inviting. Yet she felt trapped in her own thoughts. For the first time in years, she felt completely and utterly lost. As she stood there, trying to make sense of her own heart, her thoughts were interrupted by the soft click of a camera shutter. Surprised, she turned around to see a young man with a camera in hand, his focused gaze now fixed on her. His name was Alex, and his presence felt oddly calming, like the quiet between two heartbeats. "Excuse me," he said, his voice gentle but confident. "You're the perfect subject for my next shot." Emily blinked, still caught off guard by the sudden intrusion. She looked him up and down, his casual demeanor, his relaxed but intense gaze, and the way the sunlight made his features glow. For a moment, she forgot what she had been feeling. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. "I'm sorry," she said, clearing her throat. "I'm not sure I'm the type you're looking for." But Alex just smiled, lowering his camera. "Sometimes it's not about the photo. It's about the moment. It's about capturing something real." Emily couldn't help but smile back, a small, uncertain smile that she hadn't given in a long time. "I don't really think I'm what you need for a photo," she replied. But Alex's eyes didn't waver. "You'd be surprised," he said softly, his tone sincere. "Everyone has a story to tell, even if they don't realize it yet." The sound of the city, the cars, the people, the distant chatter, seemed to fade away for a brief moment. It was just the two of them, in a space that felt oddly intimate, yet entirely new. "I don't even know what my story is anymore," Emily confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Everything feels planned. I don't know when I stopped living for myself." Alex's gaze softened, his voice quieter now, almost as though he understood. "I get it. Sometimes the story you think you're living isn't the one you were meant to tell." For a moment, neither of them spoke. They sat in comfortable silence, the noise of the city becoming distant, as they both settled into this unexpected space. The sun had now dipped below the horizon, leaving only the afterglow, a soft orange light that reflected off the water below. The bridge, the city, and everything around them felt still, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Emily glanced at Alex, who was still silently observing the city. She didn't know why, but she felt like she had known him for far longer than the few minutes they had shared. There was a quiet understanding in his eyes, a recognition that seemed to mirror the emotions swirling inside her. "You know," Alex said, breaking the silence, "life isn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about finding the beauty in the moments you didn't expect. Emily turned to him, a small frown crossing her face. What do you mean? Alex smiled softly, his eyes meeting hers. You're waiting for something to change, right? But maybe the change isn't something big and dramatic. Maybe it's just the small things, the moments that make you feel alive. Emily thought about his words, feeling something shift inside her. Was he right? Could it really be that simple? For the next few weeks, Emily found herself thinking about that night on the Brooklyn Bridge. She had returned to her life, her routine, but the conversations with Alex kept playing in her mind. He had sparked something in her, a curiosity she hadn't realized she was missing. She couldn't get his words out of her head. It's about the moments you didn't expect. She'd gone back to her usual routine, checking off the boxes of her daily life. Yet, the small, quiet moments that once felt insignificant now seemed like pieces of a bigger puzzle she hadn't fully understood. And then, one evening, she found herself walking back to the bridge. The cool air felt different tonight, as though it was welcoming her back. As she approached the spot where she had sat with Alex, she didn't expect to find him again. But there he was, sitting with his camera, as if waiting for her. Alex? Emily's voice was hesitant, but hopeful. He looked up, his face lighting up with a warm smile when he saw her. Emily, I was wondering if I'd see you again. Emily smiled back, her heart skipping a beat. I didn't plan on it, she admitted, but I found myself walking here again. Something about this place, and your words, kept pulling me back. Alex stood up, stepping toward her. I'm glad you came back, he said, his tone quieter now, as if sharing a secret. I think there's something special about people who cross paths at the right time. Emily nodded, unsure of what to say. There was something about the way he looked at her. Something that made her feel understood, even without words. They stood there for a moment, the city humming around them. But it felt like just the two of them existed in that space. The noise of the world outside seemed distant, as if nothing else mattered but the connection they shared in this moment. So, Alex began, breaking the silence. What is it that you're really waiting for? Emily turned to look at him, surprised by the question. I don't know, she said softly. I guess I've been waiting for something to make sense. But maybe I've been too afraid to let myself feel it. Alex smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. It's okay to not have all the answers. Life doesn't always have to make sense. Sometimes, it's about taking the leap and seeing where you land. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she considered his words. Taking a leap. Was that what she had been afraid of? Was that why she'd kept herself locked in her routine? She had always been so careful, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of what might happen if she let go of control. I've spent my whole life trying to follow a path that was laid out for me, Emily confessed, her voice trembling slightly. But I don't even know if it's the path I want anymore. Alex stepped closer, his presence gentle but strong. You don't have to know right away. Just start with one step. Sometimes, the smallest change can lead to something huge. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as his words settled deep within her. For the first time in a long time, she felt a shift, not just in her life, but within herself. Alex's presence, his understanding, had shown her that maybe it was time to take that first step, to let go of the carefully crafted path and start something new. The days that followed felt different to Emily. Every time she crossed paths with Alex, there was a subtle but undeniable shift in the way she saw the world. She began noticing the small things, the way the light danced on the water when she walked by the river, the sounds of distant laughter from a cafe as she passed, the soft murmur of the city that always seemed so busy, yet somehow more alive. Alex had opened her eyes to the beauty of the present moment, to the things she had once overlooked. But as much as Emily began to embrace the simplicity of the world around her, she still struggled with the idea of change. It wasn't easy for her to break free from the life she had built, the expectations she had lived under for so long. But every time she thought of Alex and their conversations, she felt a little more daring. One evening, as the city lights shimmered below her, Emily found herself standing at the edge of the Brooklyn Bridge once again. She had come here often in the past few weeks, each time with a different feeling stirring within her. This time, however, she wasn't alone. Alex had texted her earlier that day, asking if she'd like to meet at the bridge to talk. When she arrived, she found him waiting for her, his camera slung casually over his shoulder. The sight of him made her heart skip a beat. "Hey," Alex greeted, his voice soft but full of warmth. "I'm glad you came." "I wasn't sure if I should," Emily admitted, feeling a sudden wave of uncertainty. "I keep thinking I'm not ready for this." For any of it, Alex looked at her with understanding, his eyes gentle but firm. "You don't have to be ready. You just have to trust yourself enough to take the first step. It's not about being perfect. It's about moving forward." Emily nodded slowly, the weight of his words sinking in. For the first time in ages, she didn't feel like she was chasing something she could never have. She wasn't running from her past or her fears. She was standing still, with the possibility of a new future in front of her. They walked together along the bridge, the wind rustling the leaves and the city humming in the background. Emily's thoughts were racing, but there was a calmness to being with Alex that she had never experienced before. "I've always been afraid of change," she said, breaking the silence between them. "Afraid of making the wrong decisions." Alex stopped walking and turned to face her. "You can't predict the future, Emily. You can't know every decision will be the right one. But if you don't take the chance, you'll never know what could have been." Her heart pounded in her chest as she looked at him. His words echoed in her mind. She had spent so much time living for everyone else's expectations, trying to fit into a life that was never really hers. But now, standing there with Alex, the possibility of something different, something just for her, seemed so real.
"I'm scared, Alex," Emily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Scared of what might happen if I let go." Alex's expression softened, and he reached out, gently touching her arm. "You don't have to do it alone. You just have to trust that whatever comes, you'll find a way through it." There was something in his words, something in the way he said them, that made her believe him. She wasn't alone in this anymore, and for the first time in a long time, Emily felt like she could breathe.
The next few weeks passed by quickly, with Emily gradually embracing the changes that had once terrified her. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but she knew one thing. She wasn't afraid to face it anymore. She had started to live for herself, to follow her own heart, not the expectations of others. And with Alex by her side, the world didn't seem so big and daunting anymore. One evening, As they sat together in a small cafe near the bridge, Emily looked at Alex, a sense of gratitude filling her heart. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" Alex asked, raising an eyebrow playfully. "For helping me find my way back to myself," Emily replied with a smile. "I didn't even know I'd lost myself until you showed me how to feel again." Alex smiled, the warmth in his eyes reflecting the bond they had formed. "You found your way all on your own, Emily. I was just here to remind you of what was always there." And in that moment, as their laughter filled the air, Emily knew one thing for certain. The future was hers to create.